I got a phone call saying, I've heard you've called some state league soccer. It was when I was a cadet at the ABC.
Yep.
Yeah, I have. You're calling Adelaide City versus Wollongong, Macedonia this Sunday at Newton Sportsfield. I rock up to the ground. It was a small suburban ground, and the producer was there, David Zweck. I said, Zwecky, where am I calling from? And he goes, see that cherry picker? You're going in the cage and you're going up. I told John Aloisi the story.
Yes.
John Aloisi was 14 years of age. His brother Ross was making his NSL debut for Adelaide City. He remembers pointing to his father at me going up the cherry picker.
Hello and welcome to the Sports Grad Podcast, the ultimate guide to make it in the sports industry. I'm your host, Nathan Peroni, and on this podcast, I chat with people in industry and find out how they got hired into dream jobs in sport. If you want to know what people are doing to break in and grow their career, make sure to follow the pod and subscribe to our newsletter for even more advice. Or if you want to give yourself a competitive advantage in the job market and put your career on a rapid new trajectory, go to our website and apply for the next cohort of the Sports Grad Method program. Now, coming up on the show today is David Basheer, long-time Australian sports commentator and presenter. Bash, as he's often called, is best known for being a soccer commentator on SBS and is back behind the mic again for Australia's coverage of this month's FIFA World Cup. Despite being well known for his soccer coverage, Bash has also commentated on a wide range of sports, including Olympic Games, Commonwealth Games, Tour de France, and Grand Slam tennis. Bash has been there for some of Australia's most spectacular men's FIFA World Cup moments, including Tim Cahill's volley in 2014, Matt Leckie's goal in 2022, and many more. We are very lucky at SportsGrad to have Bash speak with us before he calls every moment of the Socceroos' time in the 2026 FIFA World Cup. So grab a pen and enjoy this chat with David Basheer.
Hey guys, Ruben Williams here, founder of SportsGrad. We'll be back to the episode in just a second, but I just wanted to take a moment to tell you about the SportsGrad Method program, which has been helping people land jobs at major sporting bodies in as little as 14 days and doesn't require you to take out a massive debt to get started. If you are looking to make a jump into the sports industry, but nothing seems to be working for you right now, then why not apply for the SportsGrad Method program? Inside, you'll get given a proven playbook and a one-on-one industry mentor, as well as access to the SportsGrad network, plus much, much more, all of which have helped people land over 800 roles in sport. If you're ready to back yourself and fully go after your career and not let life get away from you and wonder, what if I'd only given that a shot? Then you're the kind of person who we'd love to work with. So head to sportsgrad.com.au/program and you can apply to join us.
David Basheer, welcome to the Sports Grad Podcast.
Thank you, Nathan.
Welcome. It's football fever in the world right now. We're recording this a bit earlier, but we're releasing it the week of the first games of the World Cup. Your voice is going to be everywhere for the World Cup. Do you want to tell us quickly what you're doing with SBS?
Well, I'm doing match commentary as I've done for the past, 5 World Cups, I think, since 2010. So really looking forward to that. Looking forward to a new generation of Socceroos as well. And maybe looking forward with a bit of trepidation to the unknown of the United States at the moment, although Australia's first match is in Canada.
Yep.
And then Seattle and San Francisco. So, yeah, look, we're going basically with the same crew as we did in 2022, same producer, reporters, and it's like a family at SBS. We've been doing it for so long, although we don't do a lot of football these days. It just tends to be the major events.
Yeah, of course.
And the championship, of course.
Yes, true. Yes, you were all over that last year as well. I want to just talk briefly onto how we met for context, and thank you for coming on.
Yep.
So we met West United. You were emceeing a few of our events. I actually had dinner with you at Grady and a few of our colleagues as well.
A good night, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. You won what'd you win? You won a raffle. And everyone was a bit like, how does the MC win the raffle? And
I think from memory, I asked the crowd, I think it was Katrina Roundtree I was doing it with, and I said to Katrina, ask the crowd if it's okay for me to win, because I felt a bit guilty.
Yeah,
and there was no protest, so I thought, well, why not?
And then you gave it back to us, and we had a lovely dinner.
Exactly.
So thank you for that. You've been to many events, obviously, around the world. What accreditation have you got for us today?
Well, I picked out a rare one. It is my one and only Winter Olympics commentary work at Beijing 2022 when I did speed skating.
Amazing.
So
How did you How did you get into speed skating?
Well, I'm not normally into speed skating, but
Yeah.
a producer who I'd worked with for many events previously on Summer Olympics and so forth,
Yep.
said that he'd heard my track and field commentary and so forth over the years, and said, would you be prepared to give speed skating a go? And I watched a bit of short track and long track as well, so they gave me both, and
Amazing.
It was great fun.
There's a lot of transferable skills into how you commentate on all these other sports and then into speed skating.
There are, and I'm teaching that actually at La Trobe Uni.
Right.
A subject called Introduction to Sports Commentary.
Yep.
My voice has gone a bit, Nathan, today, but talking about those type of techniques, setting a narrative, the relationship between a narrative, description, excitement, the moment, and letting it breathe, the audience and all that sort of stuff. So I think it's been pretty good for me to review why we do this, and some of the students would be fair to say are more engaged than others, but it's good fun anyway.
Is there many that look up to you as like, wow, I was listening to you growing up?
I don't walk into the room with that vibe, but some of them obviously know what I've done, and they ask me questions. But I'm there to teach a technique.
Oh, of course, but I think having that real life experience, I'd imagine if I was fascinated in that world, I would be like, wow, how cool is this? Like David Basheer is teaching me how to become a commentator.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I relay my experiences, absolutely. You know, talking about some difficult moments, because you always get those.
Yeah.
And, some of the joy that you sort of feel because we're privileged to be doing what we're doing, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. No, and grateful that you can give back to the industry too. I want to just ask you a few quick fire questions, which we like to just get a foundation of your background. So firstly, what inspired you to work in sport commentary? Let's call it.
It's a good question. I always loved sport, but I suppose I liked telling stories as well, or listening to stories initially when I was at school.
Yeah.
A little bit shy when I was younger, probably still am now in some ways, but love the stories around sport and weaving those narratives into initially reporting, and then realising, I can transfer these skills into broadcasting live sport.
Yeah.
So that's the way it basically began.
Yeah, love it. What was your first ever job, and what was your first ever sport job growing up?
Well, I was at university. I was studying part-time, doing stuff at the University, Adelaide University radio station.
Yeah.
Then I got a job producing a nutty right-wing talkback guy at 5AA in Adelaide. I grew up in Adelaide. And they sent me out because the reporter was sick with one of the early, this shows how old I am, Nathan, right? Have you seen those brick phones, the first generation of mobile phones?
Yeah, from afar, yes.
Yeah, okay. Well,
never held one, but yeah.
Before you were born.
Yeah.
And they sent me out to the South Australian Golf Open to phone through radio sports reports from the Open. So literally it was the first iteration of mobile phones. Motorola, I think it was, from memory.
Yeah, I remember them, yeah.
And they were bricks. So all those retro movies, where the guys have got the big brick phones.
Yeah.
That was my first exposure to live radio.
Amazing.
Back in the day.
Back to your roots. After high school, obviously you're doing some help with students now, but what extra study did you do, if any, after high school?
I did a Bachelor of Business, and then I transferred to journalism. So
Amazing.
I did that, and then got a cadetship with the ABC. So back in the day, you got a journalism grading with a broadcast cadetship. A corporation like the ABC had those schemes, those streams, and that's the way I got into it.
Fantastic. A book or podcast recommendation that's helped your career specifically?
Look, I've been listening to a guy called, quite random, but a guy called John Gordon, this American motivational speaker. Yeah. And look, I'm not overly religious, and they bring a little bit of religion into it, but it's more about remarkable stories of people who have overcome adversity. So, I don't listen to a lot of podcasts, although I do a vodcast about business and sport.
I saw you start. You've done that recently, right?
Called the
Is
Home
that with Bruce
Ground.
Media?
Are we allowed to cross-promote here?
Yeah, of course.
Called the Home Ground.
Is it with Bruce Media?
Exactly.
We had Matt Winley on. I interviewed him here like 2 months ago now.
He's a good man, Matt.
He is good, Matt.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought of it. I saw it on LinkedIn actually recently.
Yeah.
How long ago did you start doing that podcast?
I think it's been going for about a year now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been good fun.
Nice, love it. And the last one on the quick fires, if you could try another job in sport for a day, what would it be?
Oh, to be a professional golfer.
Golfer?
Or a footballer.
Football, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you might have said footballer.
Yeah, but either or.
Yeah. You still playing golf?
Yeah, very average player, but like I love it. 15 handicapper.
Have you got time for any golf courses in America and Canada?
Maybe afterwards, but
yeah,
I'm not taking my clubs or anything. I'm just fully focused on the World Cup.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Before we jump into some more background, I wanted to share for those listening your commentary resume over the years and some of the events you've done, which is quite remarkable. So you got your UEFA Champions League, La Liga, Formula 1, 11 FIFA World Cups, men's and women's, 6 Olympic Games, Commonwealth Games, Grand Slams in tennis, UEFA Euros, A-League, Don Bradman Cricket 14, a game, and the Tour de France. Is there one that stands out most? Or, I mean, the cricket game was like, wow.
Well,
it's a bit niche.
What? I'll tell you the way that happened. That was a funny story because I got a bit of feedback on that, professional feedback. I played cricket like any kid growing up. I like watching Test cricket. I'm not an aficionado.
Yeah.
And Matt Hill, the race caller, who's a really good friend
now
of
he's
mine.
in footy as well. Yeah.
He was the chief race caller in Sydney before he came back to Melbourne. He's a Melbourne boy from Altona.
Yeah.
And he rings me one day and he said, how would you like to do the Don Bradman cricket game with me? Because they've asked me to voice it.
So they asked Matt
Yeah,
first.
they asked Matt.
Yeah.
And I said, he goes, you used to tell me you played cricket. I said, yeah, I was a wicket keeper, average batsman. So we did it. We voiced it. And Glenn Mitchell, who you might remember the name, he used to call ABC Test cricket years ago.
I might know their voice.
Way back.
Yeah.
And he texts me out of the blue because his son must have got that game and heard my voice. He goes, David Basheer on the Don Bradman game. I said, you've got to be kidding, right? And we exchanged a couple of sort of witty texts back and forth. I thought I did an okay game, but apparently I got criticised quite a lot for that voice. Well, I'm not sure how.
I think I would have played it, to be honest, back in the day when I was growing up.
And do you have any constructive feedback, Nathan?
I can't remember. I might have to bring it back out, though. I am curious. I think I've played FIFA my whole life. A lot of my friends do as well, NBA 2Ks and the other sport games. I've seen Martin Tyler little clips and snippets of when he does FIFA, but what does that look like when you're recording? Like, have they just got a massive list of these are sayings and we'll just work it into the game?
Yeah, like Smith pushes forward, bat and pad close together, or turns it backward of square, or whatever there's a million lines.
Yeah, okay.
And you've got to do it as if you're calling in the moment. That's the challenge.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's going to be spilled together with the other voice, which is Matt's voice.
Would you ever do it on that game?
Probably wouldn't do cricket again, but I'd love to do football. But they tend to get the cultured English accents on that.
Yeah, no, I understand. Very cool. If anyone's listening, go buy Don Bradman and for a weekend
14,
and play.
Was it?
Yeah, 14. I've got it here. Yeah. I know you just mentioned it before, but want to speak to right at the start, a career in commentary. So you said got some work at ABC. I've got here year 11. You established a radio station at school. Where did you get like your early breaks, unpaid, paid, that really set you up?
Well, it was answering phones at a radio station and doing that golf broadcast or live reporting, as it was, into the sports show. So that was, I suppose, my first experience. And look, I did a lot of volunteer work. You go out to football, especially state league football in South Australia. I grew up in Adelaide. So I called a lot of state league football there's no streaming back in the day.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want me to mention the year. It was a different century. Let's not go there.
That's
Nathan.
fine.
It's a long time ago.
That's fine, Bash.
But it was just volunteering work. Shadowing a guy called Alan Crisp who used to write for the Adelaide Advertiser, football, state league.
Yeah.
He wrote National League back in the day. Very funny story. The first ever NSL commentary I did, and I must share it with you because you'd appreciate this. You worked with one of the individuals involved in the story.
Really? Yeah. I
got a phone call saying, I've heard you've called some state league soccer. It was when I was a cadet at the ABC.
Yep.
Yeah, I have. I did state league for a few years. You're calling Adelaide City versus Wollongong, Macedonia this Sunday at Newton Sports Field. I said, okay. So I then went into massive preparation mode.
Nice.
First NSL call, 1990 it was.
Yeah.
It's-
Where was NSL being broadcast at the time? Or
It was the year that the ABC got it away from SBS.
Okay.
So SBS had it
Yeah.
initially, and the year the ABC got it, John Cosmina actually presented
Yeah, wow.
the ABC broadcast
Yeah.
of the NSL. Anyway,
Yeah.
long story short, they sent me to Newton Sportsfield in Adelaide. I was already working in Adelaide for the ABC. I rock up to the ground. It was a small suburban ground, and the producer was there, David Zweck. I said, Zwecky, where am I calling from?
Hmm.
And he goes, see that cherry picker? You're going in the cage and you're going up. And it was a blustery day. And
How's your...
and when
Do you have a fear of heights at all?
well, I not really, but it was a pretty unsettling experience.
I can imagine.
I'm trying to call my first NSL game. And truth be known, I told John Aloisi the story.
Yes.
John Aloisi was 14 years of age. His brother Ross was making his NSL debut for Adelaide City. He remembers pointing to his father at me going up the cherry picker and saying,
That's incredible.
What are they doing?
Yeah.
They must be going up a cherry picker because Hindmarsh was being renovated.
Yep.
I think they used Olympic Park in Adelaide. That was out of commission for some reason. So as a result, it was Newton Sportsfield. So it was a sort of a weird way to start your commentary journey in football.
Yeah.
I must thank my really close mate Anthony Savas, who was a big West Adelaide fan, Hellas fan back in the day. We went to a lot of the Adelaide derbies back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
He taught me a lot of the principles of football early on. We watched a lot. But I remember it was Adelaide City versus Wollongong Macedonia, and it was either 1-1 or 2-2. It was a score draw.
Yeah.
And I remember Aurelio Vidmar with a massive mullet scored in that match.
Some big names still there at a young... So was John playing at that time?
No, he was 14.
Yeah.
He was playing with
14,
the Adelaide City youth team.
Yeah, okay.
So
When did you tell John this story?
look, someone asked me at a Bruce media function actually,
Yeah.
when was the first football game you called, proper football game?
Yeah.
I said away from State League, that was and John just happened to be there. And he was shaking his head. He goes, you wouldn't believe it.
Yeah.
That was Ross's debut. And it was.
That's incredible.
And because it's so long ago, I forgot the fact that Ross Aloisi made his debut then.
Yeah.
But it was just such an interesting story.
That's amazing. And where does the passion for football come from?
I think just from experiencing at club level when I was a kid, going out to ground.
You played a bit?
A little bit at uni, but I was no good.
Yeah.
But just, I think because I was interested in commentating the game, I was curious about the game and how it bonded communities together, especially in my home city of Adelaide.
Yeah.
There seems to be a sort of territorial divide between some clubs. And that interested me. And I think just piecing together a commentary and learning about the way that was done, that was also, a challenge.
That's impressive. I want to speak to and jump to the World Cup now because that's what we're all about.
Yeah.
Before I get to the upcoming and what that looks like for you, I just want to speak about some of the biggest / memorable moments of past World Cups that you've been involved in that I can also remember myself. Firstly, the Timmy Cahill's goal in 2014, and funnily enough, we actually have the jersey hanging up over there.
We do.
Yes. His volley, which surprised the world. What was that like for you to be part of that moment and to call it?
It was, you're sort of in the moment, but so you only really know what it sounds like when you hear it back. Yep. But it just seemed like an out of body experience simply because it was such a phenomenal goal, like a side volley over his head, from that distance, from a diagonal ball from McGowan.
Yeah, from 40 yards away.
It was crazy.
And the other thing was they just scored and it was kick off and bang straight away.
So Arjen Robben scored.
Yeah.
Counter-attacking goal, and then suddenly Cahill came up with that moment.
Yeah.
And he'd scored, correct me if I'm wrong, against Chile earlier in the tournament.
Yeah, he did. I remember
the header, from Ivan Franjic's cross. So, he was an exceptional Socceroo. He always has been, and he'll always be remembered as such. But I think for me, it was just staying in the moment. I wasn't trying to make it about myself. I was calling with Craig Foster, who gets awfully excited at those moments. And I think he was shaking my body, like he was that excited.
Yeah.
at witnessing it. But for me, it was just trying to express what Tim Cahill meant to Australia and how phenomenal he was. Now, it's very subjective, Nathan. You know, I'm not here to sit here and tell you it was the greatest call in the world, but
I think it's one of my more memorable ones from a Socceroo perspective. Listening to the World Cups, like the bit where you say he's done it again, like Timmy Cahill's done it again. And I think that the scale of what his goal was, like, I don't know if we'll see a better Socceroo goal ever at the World Cup potentially. Like
it was crazy.
Yeah, unbelievable.
If you're listening, Nestor Aaron Kunda, over to you for this edition. How about that?
Or Geordie Boss maybe.
Or Mo Ture.
Yeah. The next one, a bit more recent, but Matt Leckie 2022, the solo run, which takes on 3 or 4 players and scores and beats Denmark. I was at Fed Square amongst what was one of my most memorable experiences in just life, celebrating that goal in the middle of the night. But what was that like for you to call?
Again, I just think it was such a tense match. If you remember, Denmark dominated the Socceroos at moments in sort of portions of that match, and Australia defended their territory and so forth. And you just felt, I don't know whether it's an instinct or whether Luke Wilkshire, who I was calling with, maybe gave me an indication in one of his comments. Something told me there was a moment where Australia may have that transitional, because they were almost drawing Denmark into that space, if that makes sense. Yep. Denmark were looking like they may score, and in doing so, it created a little bit of space in behind. And that was a transitional moment. And as soon as Sutar was on the ball, I think he played in Leckie from memory.
Yeah.
And then not Leckie, it was Riley McGree.
I played him from the left side.
Yeah, exactly. And McGree made his way past halfway, and you thought, here we go. If he plays the ball early enough, Matt Leckie's in. So I sort of sensed there was an opportunity, but then you just go with it. You don't know how it's going to come out. Like, it's one of those that you just felt like even before I called the Socceroos at a World Cup, I was there in 2006. I was wearing the strip when we were beaten by Italy. I was there for the earlier matches of that World Cup. I was so proud to follow the team. So for me to broadcast the Socceroos is an absolute privilege. So I always treat it that way, and I felt the moment because I'm proud of the team. Yeah, and I'm proud of Australia competing at a World Cup. So if that's the way it came out, I'm glad it did.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The other two I just wanted to mention briefly, which didn't really come to a moment per se, but Baye's run against Argentina in the round of 16, where we all thought he was going to score maybe better than Timmy's goal because he took on that many players. And Qual's moment right at the end, where I think we all look back trying to find a way that goes in the net and we go to extra time. What were those ones like as well for you?
Well, it's funny. Bayic, we saw that sort of mazy run, and he doesn't score too many. I think he hadn't scored for, 10 years previous or something, and we know what he's done to get us to this World Cup. I just saw the run and I went with it, but the Qual attempt was interesting because the monitors, if you're in a big cavernous stadium, you either call offside or binoculars, which is not preferable with TV because you're calling to the pitches, or you call part here, part screen. So then that's what I was doing. And would you believe, in the 10 seconds leading up to the Qual goal, was the only time that whole World Cup the screens went blank.
Was that just your box as well? Like, were the other commentators still working?
Exactly. It went across our row or
okay.
Yeah. What's called the commentary gantry.
Gantry, yeah.
And so I'm not sure if it came across, but I sort of went, I just paused a bit because the ball broke to Qual, and then Emi Martinez came out to sort of narrow the angle.
Yeah.
And that's when I said that's the moment. And then Luke wonderfully came in over the top saying, that's the moment. He sort of reaffirmed it was the moment. And it was. Yeah. Maybe if the screen stayed in one piece, it would have been a better call. But it was still one of those moments where you thought, we're playing Argentina.
Yeah.
We're pushing Argentina. And physically you could tell Australia weren't at the technical quality of Argentina. But physically we were better than them late in the match.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was when Qual was coming onto the scene. It's like he was an ex-young star. Unfortunately, he hasn't quite progressed as much as we would have hoped in the last 4 years. But I think, I still look at that moment and just try to think, how did it not just go through his legs or find a way in? But anyway, not to be. Want to focus on this year's World Cup. As I said, recording first game for the Socceroos will be this Sunday afternoon for Australians. You and I will both be over there, which will be Saturday night. When does the preparation start for you? You're assigned the gig, broadcast, SBS is going to broadcast. When do they say, Bash, you're on again, and when your prep starts?
Well, I suppose I've had such a long relationship with SBS that I don't push them and they don't push me, and I get a sense about a year out or 18 months out what's going on. And it was the championship. SBS did the Australian Championship that South Melbourne won, and we had a discussion around that. And during that discussion, they asked me, would I like to do the World Cup again? And I of course said yes. And I said, it's perfect. The championship has come up because I occasionally call an odd match overseas for Dentsu or another broadcaster. But the championship was perfect because it was domestic football, a way of me being involved. And that's where it basically happened. So, about a year out, they said, would you like to do it? And then at that stage, I'm watching qualifiers anyway. I'm watching the Socceroos.
Yeah.
So I then started to collate the information I think I need, the base information. And from there, it's just a building process.
Yeah, okay. What types of things are you researching or noting down that's valuable?
Just formations of each qualifier, the start of the Popovic era, what he did to change the team, mentality, structure-wise.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking to ex-Socceroos, I always love chatting football, go to as many, attend many cafes and just chat about what's going on. Ring friends who are invested in the game and just basically try to generate a narrative thread in my head, which changes.
Yeah.
And then as soon as the draw comes out, of course, you're fast-tracking Turkey,
those teams,
United States. Speaking to a good mate of mine, Robbie Thompson, who calls for a Paramount 10, about what he thought of the United States. Really good commentator he is and a great football brain. Just generally getting a vibe of what's happening.
Mm-hmm. Is the Turkey situation more challenging because you don't know until March that they're qualified? Like, are you then having to research, who was it? Kosovo, Turkey, Romania, and
Slovakia.
Yeah.
You know what? I literally started. I wish I was a betting man in that respect because I literally started to research Turkey. I knew they would qualify. I just saw the quality. Yeah. I saw a couple of their matches, one against Spain when they drew 2-2 in Seville, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable. That was their best qualifier. They got hammered by Spain. That was their only loss in qualifying. But they had some big wins. They've got some really good young players. And I just thought they're a class above the other teams in this playoff group.
Yeah.
I just thought they'd get through.
Yeah. No, I think they're going to be a bit of a challenge for us. With the commentary as well, who are you doing that alongside this year? I know Luke Wilkshire was one you had last time. And is it any presenting or is it all purely just commentary from yourself?
No. So Luke Wilkshire's with us in the United States. Harry is with the team in Sydney. So Harry Kuehl's with the presentation team in the studio,
Amazing.
Which is great.
Yeah.
So Luke and I will do match commentary. We also do a thing called the Socceroos Show, which is a daily vodcast on location about the Socceroos, where they're at, some local stories around Roots FC, which is their base near San Francisco, in California, Oakland, California, which is one of the most multicultural areas of the United States. It's incredible.
Looks an impressive training base from what I've seen. Yeah.
So we're going to be doing that on a daily basis. Hoping to get really good interview talent over there. We're setting some stuff up.
So you're saying you're going to be at the training ground for almost every day bar game day? Is that what you're saying? To do these podcasts?
Yeah, but they're going to be. They're not going to be live. They'll be shot on location somewhere and edited up, but as live that day.
Yeah.
Just talking about the issues of the day, and we're not going to be super serious about everything. Having a bit of fun with, all-time greatest Socceroos 11 and so forth, and speaking to some interesting people over there.
Yep.
Joe Montemuro is going to be on the show. He's going to be over there too.
Yeah, amazing.
Matilda's coach. So there's going to be some really good guests.
Yeah, no, well, looking forward to it. Do you get an opportunity to connect much with the other commentators when you're over there? I know I've always heard from afar you've got a great relationship with like Martin Tyler, for example, but do you cross over much into other languages, into the English guys, other people?
Mostly for the English-speaking commentators, but because I've been around for so many World Cups, they sort of know I do the Socceroos. So, whether it's Martin Tyler or Ian Darke or, Derek Ray or whoever, they always see me and wave and come over and have a chat. If they're doing the Socceroos, I'll give them whatever they need.
Yeah.
And commentators are pretty generous. They'll exchange information. I haven't met too many that are not generous in that respect.
Mm.
So, of course, I respect the names I've just said. Martin Tyler's one of the greatest commentators, if not the greatest English caller of all time. And I had the privilege of working with him over a number of World Cups. Yeah. It's been great.
What will your sheet look like when the first ball's kicked this weekend? I know you see stuff online of like some people like to do handwriting, some people print it out. I think it's always a fascination. But yeah, what does your visuals look like for your notes?
I type it out.
Yeah.
Because I don't trust my handwriting. Worse than a doctor's handwriting.
Yeah.
I just try to keep things reasonably simple in a sense that you talk about how many caps they've had, what club they play for, what they've done this season with their club. How many starts, how many minutes they've played, off the bench goals and assists and so forth, the basic stuff, right? But also narrative around the player. What has Mo Tiro overcome to get to this point of his career? Where's Nestor Irankunda come from? Were they childhood friends in Adelaide, which they were? Is there a connection between other players? Is there a family link that could have taken one of the Socceroos away from playing for the green and gold? All those little things are important, and you try to commit as much to memory as possible, so you just flow with the match. Now, it's easier said than done. There's been a lot better exponents than me, but you try to do it in an authentic way that's representative of your personality and what you think the audience want.
Yeah. We'll have to look out for some of those keynotes when you're speaking in a couple of weeks. I want to get your predictions too. Like we couldn't not speak about it. Where do you think the Socceroos land for the group stage each game? Like score predictions from you.
I think there's a lot of quality in our team, and I think we've been underrated by the foreign press, the foreign media. You probably
I've seen all of it. I think it's
Nathan. They
think we're a laughing stock.
We're just last in the group every time.
Yeah.
So I think there's one scribe I think has picked us for third, and maybe not even a third to get through, because the 8 best third place teams get through. Yeah. Okay, how I think it'll play out. Now, obviously, there's a lot of moving parts.
Of course.
The first game is absolutely crucial. Will he be expansive in the first game? No, I don't think he will. I think he'll keep things very tight. I think he'll select a team that constricts the space for the playmakers of Turkey, like Arda Güler. They've got Kenan Yildiz, who's an unbelievable left winger for Juve.
There's a few injury clouds at Turkey as well at the moment, which I'm kind of hoping.
Güler's injured.
Yes,
he won't have a full preparation.
No.
They've got 2 overlapping fullbacks, Celik and Kadioglu, the Brighton Hove Albion player, is unbelievable. And a bit of quality in the middle. So I think, of course, we'll play at certain times in that match. But it'll be a Popovic approach, pragmatic, not give anything away, and try to use the assets on the break. Now, whether those assets are deployed from the start, a la Irankunda, specifically, I'm not so sure. I would like to see him in that first match be brought off the bench for the second half, just personally, because I think if we keep things tight, a la Denmark in the third match of 2022, and then we can find those transitional moments. I think it might be 1-1 the first match.
1-1, okay.
And I think we are a big chance against the United States in the second. Depending how things go, things have not gone smoothly for Pochettino. they went through a little purple patch in 2025, where they hammered Uruguay, they beat Paraguay in a very spiteful match. But 2026 against Belgium and Portugal weren't good friendlies for Pochettino. They are lacking confidence. Pulisic is sort of scowling around the touchline. He doesn't look like he's happy playing for the national team. He says he is, and he says he's going to use the crowd to generate the sort of passion he's looking for. But I think pressure can work both ways. I expect Australia to really get into the heads of the United States. Papa will use all the layup terminology and all that sort of language to his advantage, motivationally. We know what he's like. So I think they can get something out of the second match. I'm not saying they can beat the United States, but I think they can share the points at least. Mm-hmm. And against Paraguay, I think the way we match up against opposition, they are our toughest opponent. Not so much the best opponent.
We've always struggled against South America as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
I think 9 wins out of 49 internationals, something crazy like that. We have struggled because they're very comfortable being uncomfortable, Paraguay. They showed that in World Cup qualifying. And I'm not sure that that's our sweet spot, controlling the tempo and rhythm of a match. So, that's going to be challenging for us.
Yeah.
And that might be the place where an Aaron Kunda starts, and we take on a more attacking posture from the start, because obviously a first goal for Australia in that match will draw them out, and that's exactly what we want. Yeah.
So you think we finish third, second?
I think it's either going to be 3 draws or a win and 2 draws. Best possible scenario.
I still think 3 points gets you through.
I reckon it does.
With that third place position.
Being a gnarly, uncompromising defensive unit.
Yeah.
And, sometimes there's a beauty in that, in a way.
Oh, we've never been the most beautiful side of the World Cup, but we find a way, and I think we've always been underdogs. Doesn't matter if the media tell us or not, we always know we are. The point around the America one too, I think we saw it in the friendly, like that got really fiery with Chris Richards, and like that was as friendly. It mean not a lot, but I feel like there's a red card in that game based on that past match.
I think
what that could be. Yeah.
Let's just hope that the referees are playing with a straight bat. Hey, straight up and down the line.
That's
what do you
reckon? Yeah. I want to just reflect on some things through your career to finish. Some of the biggest influences and mentors you've had throughout your career so far.
Les Murray, definitely. Why? Because Les taught me and the whole team when we were doing the early World Cups about the responsibility of cultural awareness. And we're not broadcasting just for an Australian audience. Of course, we're broadcasting the Australian national team, but when they're playing Chile or Turkey, Paraguay, whoever, you've got to respect the other culture and understand what drives them as a football nation, as a nation generally. So that he would be definitely one inspiration, mentor. I've worked with so many amazing people. Martin Tyler, not because he tells you how to do it, but just the general conversations you can have with Martin. I think he's a generous soul, generous spirit. He realises I'm not an effusive, over-the-top character, so I think our personalities suit each other. Yeah. There's many others, Nathan. I really enjoy talking to John Aloisi about football. Maybe the Adelaide connection.
Yeah.
I've had the privilege of commentating a World Athletics Championship with Bruce McAvaney. SBS did the 2025 version from Tokyo. We did it from Sydney. SBS asked me to do the field element. Bruce lost his voice for one of the nights. I had to step in and do track, which is quite daunting when he's done it for the previous 2 or 3 days. But I've done quite a bit of track and field, and that was a big pleasure. Again, he's a generous spirit, Bruce. He doesn't try to steal the limelight. He's very team-oriented. He respects research and he respects football, actually, a lot more than I thought. Like, he loves what SBS does and the global aspect of the way we approach an event like a World Cup.
Yeah, some incredible names that most people would love to have just a coffee with. So I'm sure they've had a massive impact on your career. Do you have like a worst mistake that you've made live on air?
There's been plenty.
Yeah. Anything that you're happy to share? Or
Get on the Twitter sphere and I'm sure they'll tell you. There's been little mistakes, but look, when you're looking to identify, okay, one was when Luke Wiltshire delivered the cross for Tim Cahill 2010 against Serbia, third match of the World Cup.
Yeah.
He rose with, I'm going to say, Bresciano. It might have been Bresciano. It could have been someone else.
Yep.
They both rose together, and I had to correct myself mid-call to say it was Cahill because I think I said someone up, but Tim Cahill emerged. Something like it was a little clunky. Right. I'm known for my clunkiness occasionally,
but it's bound to happen. You're in a live world that so much is going on, and I think some people are overly harsh and critical. But
and that's what I tell the students I teach at La Trobe. Don't be too hard on yourself, because I was when I was younger, and really it's an experience. You're doing something live. You're bringing in a live event to someone's living room or to radio or to streaming or whatever the audience is. Just own it. Own a mistake if it's there, right?
Yeah.
And you don't need to brush it off. You just push forward, because sometimes in rawness we see the real person, or we see the moment. Sometimes something is so remarkable that you might call it the other way for it then to turn on its head, for then it to be remarkable, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I understand.
So you just got to own the language you use.
And that can apply to anything as well.
Yeah.
Missing a pass, missing a goal on the field as well, or something at work. Same thing. Most memorable moment or match or matches?
I would say, I'm going to name two. The Matildas run to the 2023 Women's World Cup. We haven't spoken about that.
Yeah.
I did that for Channel 7. It was a great honour to have broadcast that semi-final.
Did that surprise you, the actual traction it got around the country? I thought it would get big traction, but I don't think it would get to the scale that it got to.
I echo your thoughts. Me too. I knew it would gain kudos. I knew it would gain momentum. To the extent that it did, I was not prepared for that. And that quarterfinal against France in Brisbane was just crazy theatre, tense. We were I was calling it with Grace Gill, we were just so nervous for the players, not so much for us, but it was just crazy theatre because it was so tight. I actually felt for France because they've been so close so often, but obviously it was a moment where Australia embraced it.
Yeah. Courtney Vine becomes a hero.
Vine, the moment for her that will define her life. And then
it's another one of those, I feel like where you were when it happened. I was having dinner in an Indian restaurant in the city and everyone had just stopped and everyone just got phones out and someone hears the penalty go in before the next person and everyone's just going crazy. And obviously there's Fed Square and everything else, but it's another similar Aloisi moment, I think, for football in the country.
Yeah, and I remember watching the Aloisi moment and hearing Simon's call. It was just incredible. Foz's passion come out.
It's emotion, yeah.
It was amazing. And the other would have been Matthew Leckie, 2022, because they were unheralded. They weren't expected to do that. They were hammered by France in the first match after Craig Goodwin gave us that moment. Yeah. And then suddenly they, like Arnie often does, he just gets the group together and says, okay, that's happened now. This is we're going to stay together. We're going to play for each other. And this is the way we're going to approach it. And for me, it was an amazing study of human and team spirit and the Australian psyche. And Matthew Leckie is one of the most underrated players this country has ever produced, notwithstanding that goal. What he achieved in Germany, where he came from, it's such a rough, raw diamond from Bulleen to Adelaide United, and then, nearly 10 years in the Bundesliga? Yeah. Incredible journey. And for him to culminate that with that moment was just magnificent.
Yeah. On Arnie too, obviously he's coaching Iraq at the World Cup. I think a lot of Australians will be hoping he does well. How do you quickly think they will go? It's going to be a very, very big, tough challenge. But
he's galvanised that team. you can tell he's got the spirit of the team. And speaking with Spider Kalats, who I know well, who's his goalkeeping coach, there was an element of the naivety of both Spider and Graham in the right type of way has worked in their favour, because they've had the ability to say, no, we're not going to do it this way. I know you've done it this way. We're going to do it that way. You got to trust me on this. I've been to the round of 16 of the World Cup.
Yeah.
And they did. They trusted him, and they had to overcome so many obstacles, as we know. So I think it's going to be a tough ask for them to get out of their group, but I wish him all the best. I think he's done an incredible job to get them to this point.
Yeah, I think it's just a celebration for the nation that they're there. And then just recently we got drawn against them in the Asian Cup in 6 months' time, so that'll be interesting. VAR, it's obviously a massive talking point, but how has it impacted commentary for you?
Well, Josh Risdon was involved in the first VAR goal in World Cup history.
Yes, I do remember that. Yeah.
Australia v France in Kazan, 2018, when I think he got more of the ball than...
It became a penalty, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Against Griezmann? No.
Yeah, Antoine Griezmann.
Yeah.
He got more of the ball than Griezmann, in my view, and in Craig Foster's view.
Yeah.
But on review, the referee saw it the other way, and that goes down in history as the first ever VAR World Cup goal. So, has it been refined since then? Absolutely. Do we need it? Well, it's not like we can't be without it now. You can't turn technology off.
No.
I wish in some ways we could, because some of the romance would still be there. But when you look at the stakes that have been played and the sort of tech that is on display and developing, I just think it can be used in the right way. They've tweaked it, whereby they can now judge a second yellow card. They've got a little bit more use of corner balls and goal kicks. Now, if it doesn't interrupt the flow of play, they can make a call on that. Of course, in the penalty box, if there's, as we saw, with Arsenal.
Yeah, just last week.
Yeah.
For us now, yeah.
Yeah, so that was the right call, and that was the right use of VAR.
But they're all questions about, and we can go on forever, but some of them would say that there's been other situations like that during the year that it's not happened and it hasn't been called. So correct. I think it's always the inconsistency with any refereeing. But shout out to Jarrett Gillett too, because he's an Australian doing his thing in the Premier League. So well done to him. Do you have a favourite player's name to call? Is there just a name that comes off that you just love to say?
Well, only because he scored the first goal of the World Cup in 2010. It was Sapirwe Shabalala. The left winger for South Africa.
Yeah. I was actually thinking in my head that Shabalala is some random name that I would think is just funny and interesting, but that's funny that you say that.
Yeah. So that only because it was.
So were you commentating on that game?
I was with Kevin Muscat.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, who might have added another Lala to Shabalala. I think.
What a moment that would have been for you to be in the stadium.
It was incredible. Soccer City, 90,000. Yeah. Johannesburg, first African World Cup. South Africa not expected to beat Mexico. They score the first goal of the World Cup. Rafael Marquez, who had a great career at Barcelona, scored the equaliser later in the match. But yeah, it was just one of those moments. I think the way they celebrated, it was a heartfelt World Cup moment.
Yeah, that's one you'll remember forever, I think. Favourite World Cup that you've commentated on so far?
Qatar, Australia for the Women's World Cup, absolutely, and Qatar for the Men's World Cup. Only because you always look at it through a Socceroos prism.
Of the success of the team.
Yeah, the best World Cup as a spectator. I did a bit of reporting at 06 in Germany, but I watched all the Socceroos matches as a fan, loved it. Brilliant.
Yeah.
South Africa was different to Brazil. Russia was different to all of them. And Qatar was a city country that hosting a World Cup without alcohol, which I quite liked actually. So, not the fact that you couldn't drink, but the fact that you didn't have that culture.
Yes, understand. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Biggest pinch me moment working in sport commentary? You had to name one. This is all your sports and all your events.
I think that you raised it before. I think it was the Tim Cahill goal.
Yeah.
For the enormity of the actual goal, and both the Courtney Vine penalty and the Matthew Leckie goal.
Yeah. No. Very special moments.
Yeah.
And something we do, Bash, is just have questions from like our last guest that no one
Right.
knows who's coming on, but they ask a question. So the last question from the guest was, if you could fix one thing that's wrong with the sports industry overnight, what would it be and why?
That's a good question. I don't know how to fix this, but this is the problem.
Yeah.
The ridiculous wages that are paid to top-class footballers in the world, and how other football leagues struggle as a result, because it just funnels up to this cascade of overspending at the top level.
Yeah.
So all the UEFA fair play, economic fair play and so forth really doesn't hold a lot of weight. And yeah, let's fix it by having a European Super League. It's not going to fix that problem as such. So I would like to see the greatest heads in the administrative side of the game get together and work out a more equitable measure to structure football worldwide. And that would apply to Australia as well.
Yeah.
We've got our own financial challenges in the A-League and the MPL and also the Championship. So, as a sweeping problem, that would probably
that's a fair
be the
point.
one.
Find a way to bump everyone up
Yeah.
and support each other. And the last one is really just for you. So what is a question you would like to leave for our next guest that comes on the show? Can be about anything.
Okay. I would like to ask them what would be a better way for sport to be more actively involved in social justice?
Love it.
Beyond what it's doing now.
Yeah, for sure. We'll make it happen.
Okay.
Well, Bash, thank you so much for spending time with me to chat. As a football nuffy myself, it's been an absolute privilege. Obviously, we've met each other and spoken over the years, but to have a pure conversation one-on-one about all this has been very special. So I'm sure the football people listening would love it as well. And like I said, make sure to tune into SBS this week for the start of the FIFA World Cup. Bash will be all over the Australian games, and make sure to get along and to support the country wherever that may be, and at home, the pub, Fed Squares, and we can't wait to hear from you during the World Cup, Bash. So thanks again.
Give us a wave with the scarf in Vancouver, mate. Okay?
I will.
So I can see you from the commentary box.
Absolutely. I will be sure to do that.
Good on you, mate.
Thanks, Bash.